All right. Moving on to Terrence. Terrence Thames is the owner and creative director of Coco Creative Agency. Terrence has a ton of experience with videography, production, creative services, and he is just a tremendous asset when it comes to creative advice. Terrence has a team of creatives working alongside of him. And if you want to know the whole story about Terrence's adventure, I just did his podcast on startup stories with him. It is out. And I should give a shout out. Amy's been on the podcast, and Tofik's sister, Hannah, has been on the podcast as well. So anyway, Terrence, we're going to hand it over to you and talk about the services industry and selling to large companies. So we've made you a co-host so you could share those slides too.
Thank you. Yes, we here. Yes. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words and introduction. Yeah, that podcast, nice shameless plug. I love it. But that podcast was great. And, talk a little bit about my life and background. But yeah, thanks for having me. I know my experience is a bit different from some of the other presenters, but I want to just dive a little bit into kind of my experience and my story. So, born in Chicago, moved to Iowa when I was very young. My cousin took me in while she was in college. We didn't have much, but we had a lot of love. And but early on, I got involved in video production in my church. Started working professionally around the age of 16, but and had a community of people that helped me to grow in the space, that helped me to cultivate this gift that eventually would be the start to what turned into Coco Creative Agency. Started working professionally early at around 16 or 17. When I got to college, I was working professionally at the University of Iowa while going to community college, traveling around the country, doing video stuff, making highlight videos. And I was freelancing for ESPN, all this in my teens. And so I started in the space early. And like a lot of people, it was my hobby turned passion, turn side hustle, turn business. In my mind, I wanted to have a business. I wanted to have a thriving agency, but it started off as a production company. One thing that helped me is I had really great advice from someone in my family, or someone who was a friend of ours, who worked for an organization that some of you may know called Cirrus. And I'll bring their website up in a moment as a part of some resources that I'll share with you. And that planted the bug. She said, you know what, we're going to have some meetings. You should just attend. I know you have a business. The government is the largest contractor in the world. So maybe you can get in here, just check it out. And that was around, when I was around 25, and that really planted the seed as to a different way that I could scale my business as we were going along. So fast forward to today, we have been fortunate to work with some larger companies and do projects with larger brands. Sometimes these projects start off as small, but you use and you leverage the larger companies and their brand to get you in spaces where you want to go. So for me, now we've worked with all kinds of companies. So I'll share my screen here just a little bit, just to kind of give you an idea. And I'll kind of share with you a little bit about how we were able to scale early on, and what we're doing right now to continue to scale. So, everyone on this call is an entrepreneur. We all know about decks. You got to have a deck, but having a deck in government contracting looks a little bit different. If you're in this service oriented, you have to talk about your capabilities. You have to have your NAICS codes and your DUNS number and your EINs and all that stuff as well, right? We know what those things are, but sometimes we don't know how to articulate it. The other part about providing services for the government is certainly when you're responding to an RFP, and Tofik mentioned this a little bit earlier in kind of his experience, but your capability of your team does not have to be who you have on your payroll as a W-2. The government doesn't care about that all the time when you're submitting. They want to know about your team's capability, your team's capacity. They're already in the business of contracting. So they understand that businesses have subcontractors, right? Your team is those who you can have to help you do the job. And once I finally understood that, I already had that model as an agency, but once I understood that on the government side, that helped me to formulate making sure we had the right people in the right place when we started to reach out to others and individuals. We're not getting yet. We have not yet got an 8-figure or a 7-figure contract with the government, but what we do know and understand is how to position ourselves to either get sole source contracts, how to work in an area where we can have less competition to go after contracts, and how to identify where certain opportunities are and what the timing of that should be. So let me first back up. When it comes to us, we're an agency. And even being an agency, I had to find someone else to make sure we had a really clean and nice deck because my team was bogged down. I didn't have the time. So just because you specialize in something doesn't mean you're the best one for that job. So we had this great deck. I found a graphic designer to help me with that. And what I did was I put together all of our information and I had them pretty it up, right? This right here. Now, some businesses are maybe just getting started. Having an effective deck that talks about who you are, why you do what you do, and that's branded really well can help a lot. But after they talk to you, you may get 1 or 2 conversations. But really how you can elevate yourself is by making sure you have a great presentation. So I would encourage anybody to make sure, I would encourage anybody and everybody on this call, if you don't have a nice deck, get one. And on here, we talk about who we are, what we do, why we do what we do. Right here, everyone always likes this page, right? They like this stuff from our website. We, long time ago, started pulling together all the content of everybody, all of the logos and so forth of everybody we work with. You got to be able to brag on yourself. People like to work with winners, right? So, and no one likes to be the first one, right? You can say, yeah, I'm a growing company. You know, we can do this for you. We can do some marketing, do some promotions, do whatever. We can do this, that, and the other. That sounds good, but who have you done it for? Because I don't want you playing around with my money. Play around with somebody else's money first, and then circle back around and tell me that what you did for them worked, and then holla at me. You know what I'm saying? Like the kids say, holla at me. Like Christina told me last week. She was like, holla at me, Terrence, for this event. Holla at me, Terrence. So, but it's true. No one wants to be the first. You know, show me your proof of concept. Who have you sold to? Who have you been in communication with? That shows that you have an ability to communicate, to scale, but more importantly, to solve a problem that they have, right? We were able to identify ESPN, NBC, Jimmy John's, Papa John's, McDonald's, Hy-Vee, Marriott, right? We were able to solve problems for them, right? They don't necessarily care what problem you solve. They just want to know who you solved the problem for. When you get to that second and third, maybe fourth conversation, that's when you start to get into the details as to what you exactly did for whom and what that turned into, right? So we started being very, very good at telling our story. We got our elevator pitch down. We practiced a lot. And then we also started I started putting ourselves in position to talk to people and be in these spaces. So let me break that down. And so I for the business, I worked at Drake University for a while. I worked out of the industry for a while, dealing with IT stuff at a local big company that is a great company here in town, but I was not working in the industry. My business has been around for 10 years, but it started as a side hustle. I didn't go full time with the business until about maybe 4 years ago. And even with that, it was, I still had a lot of help along the way. And it was really in the past 2.5 years that we really, really started to fly. There was all this momentum carrying us to where we needed to go. But while I was working at other places, I would use vacation time. I would use weekends. to go to trade shows, and to go to exhibitions. My space that I kind of honed in on was the minority-owned business space, right? There are a lot of marketing companies, right? But how do you differentiate yourself? How can you find opportunities to connect with people who are looking for what you're selling, right? Who are picking up what you're putting down. You know what I'm saying? And what we figured out was the main thing that we could do is really lean in a little bit harder on this supplier diversity space. And if there was a business or a government agency who wanted to buy from a minority-owned business, we wanted to, for one, have conversations with people to learn and hear how they think. But more so importantly, I wanted to try to fail forward and get those early versions of those decks together. Practice talking about my business. Practice meeting with these bigger companies and understand what are they looking for in a marketing-related company. Certainly one that's providing services. And so what we did was we connected with the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and we started in our region going to events and meetings. But I also identified where are companies based at that are looking for what we're selling, looking for what we are doing. And a lot of media companies were based in New York. So I realized that the National Minority Supplier Development Council has a New York, New Jersey chapter. Let me see who attends some of their events, some of their business opportunity fairs. And we started going to those fairs and those events. And I started calling ahead of time and saying, hey, I'm coming from Iowa. We have a company. We work with these bigger brands. And we really want to get in position to talk to Time Warner, HBO, all these other companies who we've done some stuff for, but maybe have some marketing needs. Can you help us out? And their individual staff recognized that we were a certified minority business and said, hey, when you come, we'll take care of you. So I would find the cheapest plane ticket I could. I would find a decent hotel, and I would be going over to Columbus Circle and going to these headquarters and meeting with companies on my own dime, right? Take a little time off from vacation, make some time to do it. And I met people and made personal connections. So then pre-COVID, it didn't matter where I was from. To a point, I was always in the room. And then I kept going to events summer after summer, and I would consistently see some of the same people. And they'd say, hey, aren't you that guy? Aren't you that young man that I saw last time and we spoke? Yeah, how are things going? How's the business? Because through being in the room, they saw that I had tenacity, right? They met me, the personality connected. Yeah, I may be small, but now when something comes up, eventually I may be top of mind. Of course, I would do all the regular stuff with sending emails and all that good stuff and the follow-up. And for a long time, nothing came to until COVID hit. When COVID hit, then companies needed live streaming, corporations needed live streaming, and they realized, oh, that company that did stuff for ESPN and NBC and blah, blah, blah. We have their deck. They're already in our supplier system. Maybe they can help us out because now we have an event and it has to be all virtual. And that's when we started to hit a lot of home runs, right? But along with that, at the same time, we were really, really still consistent with the government contracting side of things as well. Two different games. On the government contracting side, you have to look at what is legislated. And if you follow the money, that will show you where there may be opportunity to be a part of someone's individual spend. So in my last kind of 6 or 5 minutes here, what that looks like for us is we started to look at, with private corporations, you don't know what their spending habits are. It's not public because they're private. They don't have to tell you. With the government, you can look at trends, especially on the federal side. And so you may think, like how, I have a small team. I don't have time to be responding to RFPs. I don't have time to be, making all these phone calls. I'm trying to run my business. And all government contracting levels are not equal. I would say, and the way I was trained in this, the federal level is a lot more clearer to navigate than the state level. I know some people mentioned the TSB program. Jill Lippincott is a great friend of mine. I've been a proponent and known about the program since I was a very young man. I think you have to understand what the program is and what it is not in order to best utilize it. The TSB program is not meant to give government contracting opportunities to veteran businesses, minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. What they are meant to do is to help you help better the pipeline and help give you a more direct access for groups of people in our state that may have been historically marginalized in the general business supplier process. But you're not going to get a contract because you're a minority, because you're a woman, because you're a veteran. It's going to help you in that process, have a bit more of a streamlined sales cycle. But part of what you have to understand is the purchasers may not understand the value of a TSB, but you utilize that certification to articulate your value to those who do understand it, and you use that to leverage it when it matters. You know what I'm saying? And so understand that, and that's good. On the government side, you can be a disadvantaged small business designation. You can have a small business designation. More importantly, you can have a 8A, the number 8 and the letter A, have that criteria. And on the federal side, that there's set aside contracts that no one else can get if you have these designations. The more you have, the more exclusive the contracting opportunity for businesses who have that designation. And it's a lot more clearer how to navigate that. For us, we can even partner with someone who maybe has an 8A business designation. We can see who's used to spending money with companies who have that designation. And then we can look at their sales cycle and then early on reach out to them and say, hey, we want to be involved. We are a company. We do X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, and 3. I see someone's contract is about to end. How can we be a part of the process to have an opportunity to reach out, have an opportunity to get this contract or win this contract? If it's a contract that's under $250,000, then they can sole source that to a minority-owned business or to an 8A certified business. A lot of people don't know this information. So for us, in my last 2 minutes here, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to show you a couple of resources that we use. We're just whetting the appetite here. You know what I'm saying? It's not meant to give you everything you can in 20 or 15 minutes, but it's meant to whet the appetite. So when it comes to government contracting, I look at a couple things. I look at what's the history, who's spending money in the area that we're trying to sell in. In this case, we'll say advertising. And so to look at that history, the past performance will dictate future behavior, right? And looking at history, we look at usaspending.gov. usaspending.gov keeps track of all of the spending from all the federal departments. There's so many departments, you wouldn't even know that these departments existed. But you can curate a search based off of key terms. So I can come here, I went to advanced search, I can type in a keyword, I can look at maybe who spent over the last maybe 2 years, fiscal year here and here. I can filter by my NAICS code. If you don't know what that is, Google it, and we can talk about that in the Q&A. I can look up award amount. I can say I only want to look at things that were awarded for $1 million and up. And I can even see who it was awarded to, where these departments are located, where the businesses are located, who are getting the awards. Again, past behavior can dictate future behavior. And this is showing us the past behavior of our federal government and how they're spending. usaspending.gov. This other website I'll show you, this is like some nuggets here, FBO Daily.com. FBOdaily.com is an aggregate site that pulls together federal and also state and local contracting opportunities that are current right now. So what I'll do is look at I'll type in some keywords and say who's spending on video services, photography, marketing. What are some of the main key terms and that they're looking for right now? And if you go down here, you may even use some of these tools to help you, like say who's looking for just a source is sought, looking for a source. put in this key term, highlight September and August, and I'll put in my other keyword, which is video, and I'll press search, and it'll bring up current opportunities, local, state, and federal, around the country using multiple databases that correspond to video. Now, video may not all be what I do, right? They may be security video. We don't do security video. It may be, but it could be marketing video or promotions. And so we can look at that too. The last thing that I'll mention here, and I'm over time in 20 minutes, I'm 20 minutes and 20 seconds, is Cirrus. I mentioned him earlier. Cirrus is a Center for Industrial Research and Service. This department is through Iowa State. The Iowa State Extension Office, they are a fantastic resource, and that will allow you, that will help you for free to research, find, and find government contracts that help you with the RFP process. They won't do it for you, but they'll help you with it. So I'll stop there. I'll stop sharing my screen. Hopefully someone got a little bit of value. And of course, if there are some questions, we'll take a few later.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrence. So if you have questions for Terrence, please drop them down in the chat so we do not lose them. Again, great resource for doing government work. And thank you for sharing that resource, Terrence. That was wonderful. I mean, just even knowing how to navigate that once you get in there. But again, Terrence has also worked with like ESPN, NBA, Jimmy John's, Papa John's. So anything service related, Terrence is able to hopefully answer some great questions for you.